Hi, my name is Mandolin Royal, and today I'm going to give you a little flock update on what we have going on, as well as going over some hard truths of poultry keeping and breeding in a forward progression. So I'm sure you already know that pen space is always at a premium, and you just can't keep the same birds for an extended period of time unless they have proven themselves to show that they have good breeding merit. And I don't have room in my flock for sentimental pet birds. So if you see this open door over here, that's the pen that Tornado had, as well as 4 hens. 3 of them were older than 3. 1 of them was a yearling. And the whole pen frustrated me, and I had to make the difficult choice. And if you followed along with this channel, you know Tornado was one of my absolute favorite birds for temperament, and he made himself a bit of a pet. So Saturday morning, my meat buyer came, and he took everything extra that I had. That was partly because we didn't have time to do the processing, and because I had sentiment in there, which can make this hobby tricky. But it's over with, it's done, and now I have this empty space to clean out and refill. And I'm feeling pretty melancholy over it. I'm a little more upset about it than I'd like to admit. And it's contributed to me not staying on top of these videos and slacking on the educational piece because sentiment sucks. But it's a part of it. You gotta take the good with the bad. It all helps with perspective. So I didn't take any final pictures. I didn't take any final video. But I'm gonna tell you why I made the decisions I did. So Tornado, if you look back on his videos, he started out as a monster grower. That boy gained, and he was fleshy, and he was great for a dual purpose. But he had pale leg color, kind of a funky comb, and a couple of bent toes. Which is not a deal breaker. I can breed around that. I can use the females to offset that. But then he started yellowing out after 6 months of age, which is also not a complete deal breaker. But what did him in was when he had a later onset of rye tail. And that's when the tail shoots off to one side and it just stays that way. It's a structural flaw. It's a general chicken flaw. Absolutely no breed on the planet is supposed to have a rye tail, which eliminates him from the breeding pool. Which means I don't have room for them because we don't keep pet chickens. So once that rye tail showed up, that was it. And I've known for 2 weeks. I've sat on this information. I've stewed over it. I've agonized over it. And I couldn't justify it. I couldn't break my own rules for one bird. I still feel that's true. I don't have any regrets. I'm just dealing with the leftover sentimental attachment. So, thankfully, we've had 2 new litters of piglets. They're keeping me busy, and they're pretty entertaining and cute. I've got turkeys coming out of my eyeballs. I've got baby chicks coming out of my eyeballs. I have my remaining adult birds. Probably going to move these guys over so I can use this pen for grow outs. This is the dinner pen of birds who were faulty enough early enough to let me know their status. Then we have the turkeys. There's some nesting in the corner to lay, but no one's gone broody yet. This is my first group of birds that I'm hanging on to myself. So these will move over to the empty pen when I move those other ones over to where Tornado was. It's a pretty nice looking group there. And if I didn't empty that pen, I wouldn't have a bigger, better pen to put those into. I'm always hatching, growing this time of year in the next several months. This is another group. Here soon, they'll outgrow this pen. And I've got 5 out of 6 brooders going. Both incubators are getting a little full. The only other pen I'm going to be able to empty out is this one with the remaining hatchery pellets in it. When my meat buyer came Saturday, he took all of the cockerels from that hatchery group right at 16 weeks old. And I have 8 more pellets that can go on to be productive layers elsewhere. And I can get back to being 100% American breasts. I can fill this pen back up. Rooster coop, it's empty. So the dinner birds can go over there and enjoy that pasture. Right now, pellet pen has piglets. So I'll have to stretch out into my overflow tractors. I haven't cleaned them out yet, but I'll go ahead and show you what I do when I get into a pinch point. Because that happens. If you keep on hatching and growing and keeping birds, you're going to run yourself into the pinch point of space. That's when you need to start looking at them and figuring out if there's any you can cull, any that are worth sending to a new flock. These are our older garden beds. We haven't planted them yet. We've still got our seed starts going. We're waiting on some weeds to come up so we can pull them out. Like this grass, that stuff sucks. And it has a runner root. So if you get in there and till it, it just breaks it up and compounds the problem. But I have these 2 tractors here. I did have spare boys in there. Meat buyer took those too. And this way it frees up this space. I can muck it out, get it set up, move grow outs in there. Because now I've got a pretty good selection going of offspring, and I need to have the space to grow them so they can show me what they're made of. And if I don't have that space, I can't grow those birds. This one I normally use for turkeys. It's actually a really cool tractor, but it's too big to roll on our terrain, so we use these dog panel kennels to fence it in. It has a metal roof. Everything's hardware cloth. But after the fox figured out how to get underneath the edge, we had to park it, fence it in. These 2, we also parked them and skirted them because our local fox is pretty smart, as it turns out. 2 of our little pigs. They do a great job at mowing. These are high percentage Cooney with a little dose of Berkshire in there to help the bacon out. This is another tractor that I got from a neighbor several houses down. We pulled it on down the street. But I need to fix the door on it so that I can get this operational. I do like the design of the wheels, and it might solve the fox problem because you raise it with the handle to get your clearance for travel, and then you set it back down. Our tractors have 4 permanent wheels in a fixed position, and based on the dips of the ground, they don't always seal up tight along the bottom perimeter. So we'll give this one a go before committing to buying the wheel kit that you can get separately. And if this works, then we might get those wheel kits and convert or build new tractors, because you can never have too much poultry space. Literally no such thing as too many places to put chickens. So now that I've got this little update off my chest of tornado going to the great crack pot in the sky, we can get back to our regular scheduled programming on how to breed for dual purpose, how to do your breeding selection, and all the little details that it takes to make it work. There's a lot of stuff to it, more than I ever even gave thought to when we were first beginning. Originally, several years ago, I was under the impression that you bought chickens and then you hatch from those chickens and then those birds all do the thing. That's not true. If you want it to be really easy, stick with the hatchery hybrids. It takes all of the thought out of it. Buy them, grow them, eat them, repeat. Taking up the breeding adventure, you have to want to do it. And then you have to really commit. And then you have to make the hard choices. And there's not going to be room for pet chickens unless you have a special dedicated spot to put them in. And I can't afford to give up one of these pens to have a little group of pets. It is what it is, though. I can refill these pens as quickly as I empty them. Keep everything moving in a forward progression. So now my new favorite is this guy here in position 2. He didn't yellow out. He grew faster than Tornado grew. His tail is still hanging straight. It didn't do the wry thing that Tornadoes did. Tail's a little thin and a little high, but I cannot feel his keel bone. This bird is throwing the meat forward, the growth rate. He has darker legs, better toes, not perfect toes, but better. All in all, this is the best boy from last season's hatching. So he gets priority pen space. And he's chill. What do you think, buddy? He doesn't want to be a pet. But that's not a bad thing either. All things considered, and with the choices you got to make as you go through making space for that next generation. This flock has 2 boys in it, and I was kind of thinking about splitting them up and putting a small side group into the new empty pen. But they've got a great dynamic, and I kind of don't want to interrupt it. So I might leave that like it is for now. They're pretty equal in how they developed, how they turned out, what they feel like. Almost like breeding from the same bird twice. So I'm really leaning towards taking this group, moving them over. That way all my adults are in a row. All my grow outs are back through here. And then I'll keep pen 1 empty for the creme de la creme that hatches. We'll see what I get. These first 3 pens are 7 foot by 11 foot. So based on the age of the birds, I can really utilize this space. I'll think about it. I'll give it some time. I'll ponder it. Look at my options. I'll go through and count some of my eggs before they hatch by candling. I'll count the eggs that did hatch. I'll count the chicks from the prior hatches. I'll do some math and figure out how much space I'm going to need. Coming up, I'm going to do a video on figuring out what flock size you actually do need to have. And that's going to go into some more hard truths, stuff you need to look for and pay attention to. And to help you with your planning. Having a plan really helps a lot. So, more on this later. Now we can get back to what I was doing after I got all the sentimental stuff out of the way. But man, I'm gonna miss that bird. Tornado is cool. So I'm gonna keep my eye out for another one that turns out better. We'll see what hatches.